Hello, everyone. So I am doing a real quick stream today. I feel like very little planned. I just feel the need to do this. Why? Because I reminded myself recently that the only reason I've ever done YouTube videos is because I I would want to see someone just talk about random EU stuff from time to time, right? And I realized this again because I was watching this great stream last night with Matt Wilkins and Professor Geek. Go check out Professor Geek's channel, a good channel in general and a good conversation. Yesterday, Matt made the same point. He said, look, like, why does he do all of this, right? It's like, it's just because he'd been looking around a couple of years ago and wanted to find someone reviewing the EU. Not many people were. People had been doing it and stopped. He wanted to do it. I totally respect that. It makes so much sense. And it was the same reason I started mine, even knowing that Matt was doing his videos, because I was just thinking like, well, okay, if Matt's going to like review in chronological order, well, then I want to like, I don't want to wait like 7 years or something to talk about this book. So I would jump in with that type of thing. And then I realized, you know, in addition to the books, I've got all these weird little promos and collectibles and rare things and stuff like that. So I wanted just to share that, right? Why? Because I would want to see someone share that stuff too. So anyway, in that vein, I'm just going to share a couple of random things that happen to be right here. And I realize I'm always cryptically referring to like, oh yeah, I'm going through my boxes or I'm going through my collection. I have about 7,000 books. Unfortunately, they're scattered in several different places. I have some here. I have some in a storage unit. Folks saw my video last year. I had a flood issue in my house that impacted a lot of that collection, primarily by like forcing it out of the house into storage. So I'm constantly, and with that many books too, you're always constantly sort of like shuffling through them, recataloging them, whatnot. You need different ones for different purposes and stuff. So I'm constantly going back through these boxes of things, and not just of books, but of, you know, memorabilia and collectibles and stuff like that. So anyway, that's why I'm always sort of like shuffling through this stuff. I'm here at my desk. There's always stuff nearby. So I'm just going to grab some stuff, put it up here, and then jump off the stream. Okay. So here's the first thing. This should look familiar to a lot of people, EU fans. Now, this is just an address book, okay? An unused address book from 1992, but of course, it's got the great cover of Glove of Darth Vader, Jedi Prince run. We've got the full cover there in the back, so it's nice. You can open it up. You can actually, it'd be a good thing to scan to get that full cover. Stuff like this was published in the very early days of the Bantam run. So this is from 1992. Published by Antioch. Antioch was a really important licensee back in the day. A lot of the old bookmarks that you're going to find in secondhand shops and on eBay and stuff like that, that have a lot of the early Bantam covers, they're from Antioch. Antioch also did journals, they did address books. A really important publisher that, more than anything for us now, right, provide a lot of really great just glimpses at those covers that you're so nostalgic for. And I've said this on other videos. One of the reasons why I'm so into Star Wars EU promos is because years ago, I realized there was just this huge lack of anything for fans to stick on the wall, right? There just weren't that many sort of official promo posters and things like that, that like, again, imagine yourself in a college dorm or something. You want to show everyone in the hall what your interests are, right? Well, you couldn't just go easily put up, you know, a courtship of Princess Leia poster, right? Those things just didn't really exist, right? Unless you were able to sort of track down from stores and the licensees, the sort of the promo posters and stuff, right? And again, I feel like this falls right into that. It's like if you grew up reading this series, right, you probably want to see this cover again, right? Like, and I have not used an address book in 30 years, right? But thanks to the internet and phones and whatnot, but it's still a cool thing to have for that cover. Cool thing to collect. Again, Antioch, I think they also did calendars, which are a really great way. I'm always seeing folks ask online. I see this constantly in forums, on Discord and places. People are sort of asking for scans of the old book covers, right? And like, where are people finding these nice, pristine covers without any of the other markings on them, right? What I think are sometimes known as like virgin covers, right? Without the titles, without the prices and stuff like that. Calendars, the old-fashioned calendars, are a great way of getting those images, right? These big 4x6, 5x7 shots of those old images. And again, this follows suit. You know, if only you could take that addresses off, right? You could have a neat scan of that cover. Okay, sticking with promo items here. This is a fun thing that I've always loved because I love Allegiance. I think I talked about this the last time I did a scan. It's a lenticular cover, so there's a little bit of holographic action there. Sort of a big button. I don't know, depending on your age, you'll remember that buttons used to be a really, really, really big deal for any franchise. Sports teams, pop culture, movies, whatever. Everything like in the early 80s, mid 80s was like buttons. Like it was just crazy, right? And I don't know anyone that wears buttons anymore. But this was all the rage. And it's kind of funny that they're still printing them in a lot of ways. What's really unique about this, and particularly for people sort of my age, you'll remember how absurdly big buttons were back in the day, especially. No one would wear this. I'm trying to just to give some perspective. Like here's my phone, right? You can sort of get a sense of just how big this is, right? This isn't something that just sort of like discreetly goes on your lapel, right? I mean, that's, it's a big button. It's sort of silly. You're not going to wear this. Again, it's just a neat thing to collect. I forget which con this came from, but obviously to promote Allegiance. Speaking of buttons, this was all the rage too for a while. The square shaped button. What's really neat about this, normally something this generic about like, oh, go read, or it's just a generic sort of promo for Star Wars reading or Del Rey books, I would maybe not be super interested in, because my goal was always to sort of collect the things that directly sort of reference the books, the comics, right? I wanted the promos of the content. But this really works. Why? Because look at that. Yoda's actually reading Betrayal. So he's a big fan of the Legacy of the Force series. I thought that was really cool. And I actually have this image as a standalone poster print as well. So it's really cool to sort of see that pop up in two different places. Now, oddly, Yoda here is reading not just that book from the EU, but the book itself seems to be in some sort of Force ghost state, which I've never quite understood. And the same thing is true with the promo print I've got. Go figure. One more sort of fun promo item here. It's a poster. I've done a lot of videos about my posters. I haven't shown this one yet. Actually, it's quite a long one. It is promoting the great Clone Wars era Dark Horse comics. So it's kind of hard to make out there, but it's obviously Aayla Secura. This is a hard one to find, and I just have the impression that because there's, I don't know, I think people have a hard time describing this well, I think, on eBay, to be honest. I think that's part of the challenge. A lot of the folks selling the stuff don't know who she is, maybe. They just say, oh, it's Star Wars character, Star Wars Jedi character. Let's see how long it is. Pretty cool. Meant for the door. Meant for a comic shop, obviously, but meant for the door or a long window. Pretty cool, I feel like ever since, Ahsoka, I feel like Aayla's someone whose stock has not risen as highly as it probably should. Nonetheless, that's still a pretty hard poster to find. I think there's still a lot of older fans of her. In the same vein, in the same size, I'll show you another poster from the same era promoting the Tales comics. Now, there are a couple of things from the EU that I reluctantly collect the promos for, and it's the Infinity stuff, right? It's some of the early Tales comics that there's some promos for. Some of the Brian Wood comics that are not necessarily in continuity by design. If you guys remember, I think it was around 2013 or so, Dark Horse put out The Star Wars, which was basically a comic adaptation of one version of the original sort of, pre-1976 script from Lucas of A New Hope. There's promos for those things. I have some of them, but I don't go out of my way to systematically collect them because, again, I'm interested primarily in promoting the mainline sort of EU. That said, I just thought this was a cool thing to pick up. Star Wars Tales promo. If I can go and roll the thing, I'll show you. There's a number of Tales promo posters. I'll show you some later. Some of them aren't particularly distinct. Like, you might not necessarily know that this is a Tales, or that it's promoting the Tales comics, right? Again, you can see how long this is. It's a great image, though. Some folks back in the day might have seen this and just thought, oh, cool, Star Wars Tales. I like Tales set in the Star Wars universe. Obviously, no pun intended, the telltale sign that this is actually the specific comic known as Tales is the sort of the font and that logo there, the Star Wars Tales. You know, Tales again is sort of interesting. I mean, back in the day, it was very frustrating to fans. You know, it was pretty clear that a lot of the stuff in the early issues didn't really make a lot of sense in continuity, and there were some sort of pretty early qualifications about what it was really supposed to be. That outrage led to Dark Horse finally just sort of like confirming that basically around issue 20 and after, everything was effectively at least intended to be set inside the mainline continuity. I think, though, occasionally there's stuff before issue 20 that sort of works its way in. I talked about this on another video recently. This is a stack of Star Comics magazine. Now, if you're not familiar, Star Comics was an imprint of Marvel, early mid-'80s. And what it effectively did was it was a place for Marvel to publish all of the sort of like the kiddie cartoonish intellectual property that it owned. And so it did a lot of the Saturday morning cartoons. And so there was like Heathcliff comics, if you guys remember that. Heathcliff was kind of a ripoff of Garfield, Transformers, I mean, a bunch of other things, including Alf comics. Now, Alf was, if you don't know, Alf was a TV show, was a live action TV show in the mid 80s, and it had a related comic, and Marvel published it via Star. And what's interesting about this is it's pretty obscure nowadays, and yet Marvel is on the verge. They've already announced this, I think, in the last month or so. They're on the verge of publishing a hardcover omnibus of just Alf comics from its Star imprint. I mean, go figure, right? There's tons of stuff we'd love to see them publish before this, but who knew? By the way, I was a big fan of Alf back in the day, but I had no idea it was that popular. I'm looking at the table of contents here to see what else is in this one in particular. And so like the Flintstone Kids, which was a cartoon in the 80s, that's something that was also published by Star. What else was here? Oh, Muppet Babies. How could you forget the Muppet Babies comics? Muppet Babies sort of had its own sort of expanding universe. There were some comics as well as a bunch of books. There's a lot of Muppet Baby stuff out there in the world. So out of all of these Star comics, oh, I should say, by the way, Star Comics was a normal comic book, but they got republished in digest size. This is just a way of sort of rounding up some of the best, in their opinion, issues. So the only ones that really matter to the EU are the first 5 minus issue number 4. So this is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 5. You don't need number 4 because for whatever reason, number 4 didn't contain anything from Star Wars. What Star Wars stuff was contained in this? Well, the Ewoks comics. So let's see here, just to give you a sense of what we're looking at here. So what they basically did was in issue 1, alongside Heathcliff and whatever else they published in here, I'm trying to think, there was Heathcliff comics, there was Ewoks comics, and then, God, what was this? I don't even remember some of these comics, some of these TV shows. Gosh, I have no idea what this is. Oh, Top Dog. Okay, Top Dog, which was kind of like a, I don't know, could have fit like in the Archie comics world or something. What they would do is, so for issue 1, they reprinted a story from Ewoks Comics issue 1. In issue 2, they reprinted along with Heathcliff and other stories an issue from Ewoks 2. Now, what's interesting is they did the same with issue 3, but then, again, I said skip to issue 5. Why is that? Well, what's odd is they don't then try and catch up and then reprint issue 4 here in issue 5. Instead, what they do is, hey, what's up? Thanks for stopping by. Awesome, great. Thank you. Please do. Let me know what you like. Yeah, what's odd is they skip issue 4 altogether. So here's issue 5 of the digest, but they only reprint issue 5 of the Ewoks comics. And I've always wondered why that was. The only thing I can think is that issue 4 of Ewoks comics is actually, as these things go, kind of scary. You know, I mean, so maybe they don't want to reprint them in this digest here, but it's just another one of those things. If you're a nutball completist, you got to pick these up, right? You have the comics, you can get the omnibuses, the epic collections. Even a couple of years ago, Ewoks and Droids comics were reprinted as Marvel omnibuses as well. But again, if you're a real nut, and if back in the day you were collecting this stuff as well, you would have probably wanted to pick up these digests. It's fun. I mean, it's a neat throwback. I know towards the end of the Dark Horse run in the EU, there were a lot of digest things happening, right? As early as like the micro series Clone Wars 10-volume digest tie-in, and then the sort of the Filoni Clone Wars got a digest tie-in. There was the 6-volume Star Wars Adventures, which I talked about in the last stream I did. There was even a sort of a one-shot. Oh, what was it called? Shadows of Endor or something like that. It was another Ewoks related digest size, but the digests go way back, right? It's a neat sort of throwback here. Gosh, what else do I have? There's not much else here immediately at my fingertips. Let me see if I can go through this. Oh, this is kind of fun. You guys remember this? Bust Ups? Little, is by Gentle Giant. Now, Gentle Giant normally does these really great statues, right? But this was a cool way of just, getting some really sort of cheap mini version statues out there of some popular Star Wars characters. This is specifically from the Micro series. I think 2006-ish is when this came out. So again, this was pre-Filoni Clone Wars at a time when, again, all we knew of the Clone Wars was what we saw in the films and the comics and the Micro series. So pretty neat to think of, there being a world post the films where this was all we were going to know of the Clone Wars, sort of worked for me, right? This has always been one of my favorite bits from that Clone Wars, which is one of my favorite bits of EU. So it was really neat to sort of get this. I've never taken this out of the package naturally because I'm a, nerdy obsessive collector, but love this stuff. And I think on a previous video I've shown too, I've got some production art from this scene, from this whole sort of subplot of the Micro series. I talk about the promos and stuff all the time, right? More so than these days, and I even talk about the stories and stuff. I just sort of take for granted that if you want to hear opinions about the stories and the books and the comics, there are other YouTube channels that do that. I definitely wade into that from time to time, but I like talking about sort of the other side of sort of the Star Wars EU fandom, which is the collecting, like the kind of the weird stuff, right? Oh, let's see here. 20 didn't find the. Oh, that's great. Well, I'm super glad to hear that. I'm really super glad to hear that, and I hope it's been either helpful and or entertaining. So I'm really grateful that that you've been watching, and I hope we've been able to keep you engaged in the EU. In a way, doing this has kept me engaged in the EU, right? It's like it felt a little bit after 2014, after the decanonization, like getting shot out of a cannon, sort of like, well, what next, right? And so in a way, it's like, I guess I have to kind of create, in some ways, like my own content, you know what I mean? To kind of like keep myself sort of engaged. Why else do I have this stuff if not to occasionally sort of like go back through? And I'm really glad to be able to, have a community of folks like yourself to actually be able to share it with. So I'm really grateful to hear that you're out there and you're watching. So thanks a lot. So again, I talk a lot about the promos and things like that. I think very noticeably talk about like toys or anything like that. Now, when I was a lot younger, I absolutely collected. It's funny, I didn't collect the toys. I got the toys, right? I played with the toys way back in the day. But I've really sort of tried to avoid collecting any modern toys. I've definitely got your occasional sort of, when Hasbro will put out like a Black Series figure from the EU, I'll go out and get that to throw some support and stuff like that. But there's tons of other EU things, toys and action figures and play sets and stuff you could collect. I've really tried to avoid that for one reason, two reasons really. One, I think, is that I'm just primarily interested in the EU because I'm interested in the story. I want to know what happens next, right? The figures don't entirely allow you to do that. And the other reason is just that I know me. I've got the collector mentality. If I got too sucked into the toys, I would never end. I'd go bankrupt, right? Oh, that's great. Cool. Good. Yeah. Wow, good for you for reading that much. That's great. Yeah, that's fun. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm going through again. I started at some point last year, but I'm going back through in publication order. And I guess it would be fun over the next however many years left I have on this planet to sort of like maybe go through publication order, and then however long it takes to do that, then go back through chronological order, right? And then kind of keep recycling, right? Because I think there's fascinating sorts of insights you get just based on that approach. I think publication order yields some different insights, but the chronological order obviously yields some more valuable insights as well. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the sort of going through the chronological. Have a great day. Yep, absolutely, yeah. And I've got, you know, it's funny, like, as far as the Lego stuff goes, I mean, I still like of all the things that you could collect, like I still have like a little Revan minifig, right, from Lego, you know. So there's a couple things out there that I'll pick up. I remember what Hot Wheels too a while ago put out a they put out a gunship from the Micro Series too, which was pretty cool. I had to pick that up. But one of the toys that I did seek out because it's so obscure from an EU perspective, almost hidden in sort of plain sight, is this. It's the Colonel Kraken figure. Now this came out, I forget exactly when this came out, maybe 2011, 2012. One of the things that Hasbro did was to put out kind of a line of um, figures that you sort of would have always wanted, but never got a chance to see because they were never produced. And I'm trying to think what else was in this line. Different versions of figures. So it's like there was like a pilot, like a Mon Calamari pirate that you would have seen like in the background of Return of the Jedi. Luke Skywalker sort of constructing his lightsaber from the deleted scene from Return of the Jedi. So it was kind of a part of almost like a deleted scene line, right? A very sort of small line. And you can sort of see an indication of that here. Deleted scene from the Blu-ray of Colonel Kraken. Now, Colonel Kraken was a character that in the Blu-ray, in the deleted scenes, you see in the background of Millennium Falcon during the assault on Death Star 2. What they were able to retcon a few years later is that that guy was indeed the Colonel Kraken from the West End Games Kraken Adventures. And so I thought that was just so cool that even though there's no specific indication here that that's who it is, we know that to be the case, that this character from the film was finally given a name, Kraken, got a figure, and now you have a way of sort of with your toys, right, playing out scenarios from the West End Games. There was quite a few appearances of Kraken in those old West End games. So it was just really neat to sort of see the EU come full circle in that way. Something, a character being produced or being written about in the mid 80s, finally getting a figure in around 2011, 2012. Really, really neat stuff. Really, that was, again, it obviously just a retcon. Was, I don't know that it was ever intended to be Kraken from the start, obviously, but it's kind of still neat to see that. So anyway, kind of just some random stuff here. I've got a little box of stuff. I think I've gone through this before. Let's see here. I'm going to pause for just a second. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Got some other stuff here. Let's see what we got. I got this stuff hidden in all sorts of random places. Let's see. This is sort of random, and this is the sort of thing that, like, when it really comes time to deciding whether or not you actually want, you start to feel a little bit of the kind of the obsessive side of you sort of taking over, because this is sort of a borderline sort of necessity, but it's a gigantic 2 foot by 3 foot poster advertising the best of Dark Horse. Okay, you can see a lot of the different titles in here: Hellboy, Usagi Yojimbo, Serenity, and Conan. The list goes on and on. Here at the very bottom, we see, if I can get the angle right here, Legacy, Dark Times, KOTOR. So I thought, you know, that's pretty cool, right? Since my whole sort of framework is finding any promo with anything Star Wars related, well, they're one of the major licensees. They put it out. Got to go for it. On the back, too, there's actually something as well, sort of a brief glimpse of one of the Dark Horse omnibuses here. If I can find it. Here we go. It's kind of weird to do this backwards. There we go. So, you know, kind of obscure, not exactly a a direct Star Wars promo, but something that I still thought was worth sort of picking up. This is something folks have probably seen before. You can find this pretty easily online. It is a T-shirt transfer promoting Mercy Kill, one of the last books of the EU. Obviously, Aaron Alston's sort of his last installment, sadly, of what effectively is a yet another contribution to the sort of the Rogue Squadron series. I've never used this, wouldn't want to, but you could put this on your T-shirt with the ironing instructions here, which I still have. This wasn't the first time that the EU did something like this. This type of thing was really popular back in the day with a lot of different franchises. I still have some old T-shirts that I don't wear, but I just keep for sort of the collector's value, where I've got like a Miami Vice T-shirt. I must have gotten some sort of like iron-on transfer in like the cereal box that I put on a T-shirt of mine, things like that. But they actually made one as well for Jedi Apprentice, and I've got that floating around here somewhere. But there's a iron-on transfer that you can use. I think that basically is an image from the first cover. This is fun. I just happened to find this along the same little pile. The autograph photo from Shannon McRandall, of course, the real life actress, the inspiration of Mara Jade. Pretty cool. What is this? This is another Dark Horse poster. Another one of these sort of best ofs. You see some Buffy up here. Here's Darth Vader, of course. On the back, the thing that really makes this a promo item here is cover of Purge. A somewhat, in my view, neglected, strangely neglected, little Star Wars EU miniseries. There is a phenomenon of Star Wars promo pieces that isn't exactly like a poster, say, you'd find in a store or a comic shop. They're actually something that was like much more directly relevant to retailers and their sell sheets. What this does is this is designed, and they still produce these sorts of things for retailers and licensees. It's designed specifically to tell you everything you need to know as a licensee or retailer about this product and why you should invest your money in buying lots of stock of these things, right? To sort of put on the shelves, because we're going to tell you all the reasons why the fans are going to want it and all the things for you to tell the fans about why they should buy it, right? And so there's a ton of things like this out there that, again, they're not promo posters per se, but again, if you want lots of things from the EU, images from the EU, it's a neat way of going, right? These things are sort of harder to find because I think a lot of retailers get this, and it's for them, it's just junk mail, right? It's not like a poster that can kind of give them sort of, kind of something new for fans to come in once a week to look at on the windows and stuff like that. This is junk mail to them. They maybe use this, maybe don't. A lot of this goes right into the garbage can, but it's kind of cool when you can pick some up. So what's neat about Shadows of the Empire era sell sheets as well is that in a lot of cases, they'll tell you a lot about the product and the project and give you lists of really everything in that massive multimedia empire, right? So it's like things that maybe most folks today even forget about, right? Like not just the book and comic line and some tines and things like that, but they'll tell you the names of, who was the licensee that was published or creating like the official T-shirt with Shizor on it. Like who are the licensees producing like the official posters? I mean, there is so much out there from Shadows of the Empire that was officially licensed as part of the project. These sell sheets are a really great way of figuring all of that out. Here's a neat one too that I think does a really neat job of not just promoting the first book in the series, but then giving you info about the entire run, right? Giving you info, the names and the authors. This was a big deal. I remember when this came out. This was, it's funny. There's definitely people who I think could have said, well, I'm not going to go that far to the Star Wars universe. And I respect their opinion. But obviously you want to know what happens next. But I remember thinking kind of like, C-3PO, it's like, well, here we go again. It's like, I could tell we were in for another, big epic, right? So they needed a lot to sell. I happened to find this randomly. It's an ad. It's a Sony ad. A new evil threatens. Legacy of the Force betrayal. Jet back to the most famous galaxy ever created with your free copy of Volume 1, the Star Wars Legacy of the Force series. So basically, this is an advertisement for an ebook from Sony's ebook store. Ebooks was the big hope back in the day, to the point that there's a lot of those Clone War era short stories that are first published just as ebooks. Ebooks never really took off the way I think the industry wanted them to. Obviously, Kindle and things like that have sort of kind of reinvented, but like ebooks was really big back then. It's hard to believe how far things have come. Yeah, I do too. Oh, I know. The Japanese covers, whew, they're awesome. The closest thing that I have to some of the Struzan covers as posters is they're definitely not poster size, but a number of them were published as postcards that were given away through the Lucasfilm fan club years ago, which are kind of cool. So they're kind of, you can frame them, and I think they're about like 4 inches by 6 inches. So they kind of look neat. They're about that big. It's kind of cool. But years ago, gosh, and I've got it somewhere too. I'll have to show it next time I do a stream. There is what magazine was it? I think it was Galaxy, Star Wars Galaxy magazine, which I think in almost every issue came polyback with a poster. There is a poster there sort of celebrating his work that has slightly bigger versions of all of those early Bantam Struzan covers on it. So it's a poster of lots of different Struzan book covers from Star Wars. So that's pretty cool. That's a neat thing to track down. You can probably still find that online on eBay or whatever. But God, do I wish we had those things. Absolutely. It's neat. Struzan is on Twitter. I only discovered that recently. And so he's still, out there promoting his stuff. And I don't think, it makes me wonder, does he have any idea how much we love his stuff, right? I mean, to me, those covers are so, inextricably linked to my love of the EU and Star Wars. So he plays a really important role. And I think the way that a lot of people would feel like John Williams is just, is almost, on Lucas tier, right? With the movies and stuff like that because of the soundtracks. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else here before I jump off. Anything else come to mind that's close by? Let me look real quick. Well, speak of the devil, I can't believe it. On the top of a pile, I found that poster I was just talking about. Let's take a quick look. It's about, I don't know, I guess I'd say about 18 by 24 inches. Oh, so it's from Star Wars Galaxy Collector Magazine. And here on the one side is the creator. All right, not bad. And then on the back, Struzan, buy the book. So it's pretty cool. It's basically like a one poster roundup of a lot of his Bantam era posters. Pretty cool. pretty cool, right? But again, I'd still love something a lot bigger. And actually, the one other way you can get kind of close to this is I was actually mentioning something about this. This is wrapped here. I don't want to take it out right now, but this is a Star Wars calendar from 1995, published by Antioch, and readily available, not rare, not expensive. Obviously not really useful to us from being from 1995, but what's nice is that on, in each month, there is, a giant size effective poster of a lot of his work. Some of it is some of the work from like Dark Empire and some of the things, right? But anyway, you can kind of get a sense here. All right, here's things like that. So this is a cool thing to pick up if you're looking for poster size sort of images of this stuff. Yeah, exactly. That poster even has the some of the Jedi print stuff, right? And I don't know, quality, if you were here from the very beginning, but speaking of that, one of the little pieces of EU junk that I have always held on to, also from Antioch, is this address book, that has the cover from the first one, so kind of cool. Never used it, never had any need for it, but the fun piece of EU ephemera, right? So anyway, I think that's all I've got readily available today. Thanks everyone for jumping on, and I will be back hopefully soon for another sort of trip down my little jump pile here. And there's a ton of stuff that I do need to go to. Let me see if I can, that pile right there is a big pile of store displays, sort of EU store displays. There's a lot there. I'll just show you one just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about here. And I think on my next stream, I'll go through all of those. See if I can show you real quick. So this is for like Dark Force Rising, for instance. So this would be a floor display. And that pile there is just, I don't know, about 30 or 40 or so of them from the different books and comics and things like that and games and stuff. So that'll be maybe the next stream. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.